Hey, what is going on YouTube, and welcome to the very first episode ever of the hashtag Ask Brandon podcast. It is so awesome to finally have created this podcast. I've been wanting to do it for a while now, but I just didn't have enough of a fan base. Now I actually have a little bit of a fan base. I have 9,000 followers on Instagram, and people actually seem to like me a little bit. So I posted in my Instagram story looking for 10 questions from you guys, the viewers. I could answer them in my very first podcast. So if you submitted a question, thank you so much for submitting it and being a part of the show and being a part of the first episode. This is a good moment, you guys. People are gonna look back on this video in a few years and be like, wow, it's come a long way, so you're lucky you were on this episode. I'm just kidding, I'm not gonna be that much of a narcissist, holy shit. Anyway, so let's get started with the first question. All right, so my first question comes from Ezekiel Sandin, and if I'm pronouncing that wrong, my man, I'm so sorry. A lot of my followers aren't from my area. I live in Canada, but a lot of people that follow me aren't Canadian. So if I struggle pronouncing anybody's name, I apologize. His question is, I've been playing guitar for about 7 years, but I feel like I'm stuck. I play both electric and acoustic. Any tips on growing your talent? Yes. I find it's easy to kind of get stuck in a rut. I mean, you know what you know, and you play what you know, but you're not really learning anything new. If you want to grow your talent, the best piece of advice that I can give you is to literally look at who's really good, look at the best of the best, and try and draw from what they're doing. Take from what they're doing. If you go on Instagram and you see a guitar player, or you have a band that you really like, and you really like what their guitar player is doing, learn it. Learn what they're playing. Learn a solo. And when you learn that solo, you can actually analyze it, and you can kind of see what they're doing, and you can kind of steal some of their ideas and implement it into your own playing. And that's perfectly legal. You're allowed to do that. When I was in jazz school, they literally taught us to do that. They said steal from people that are better than you, and you will improve, and eventually you can make it your own. So that's what I would say to that, my friend. Okay, so this next question comes from Jojo Guitar Boy, and he asks, what collaborations are on your bucket list? I actually have a few collaborations right now that are on the go. Yogi the guitarist, check him out. Him and I have already been talking, and we're working on something, so stay tuned for that. But as far as big influencers that I would like to collaborate with, this would be very far down the line, but I would like to collaborate with K Firo, because he is super popular, and I feel like it could really explode my fan base if I were to do a collab with him. It would be really cool to collaborate with Tash Wolf. Her Instagram is absolutely exploding. When I first saw her account a few weeks ago, she was at 100K followers, and now she's over 200K, so that's absolutely insane. She clearly is doing something right, and I would like to learn more about it through a collaboration. I've collaborated with some pretty cool people already. I've collaborated with Matthias Krantz. He is super talented, super driven, and it was awesome to collaborate with him. Smaller collaborations that I would like to do might be with Nick Hames or Chase Steven, people like that. We've talked about it. I talked about it with Chase briefly, but he didn't really have time. He's a really busy guy, so we kind of put it on the back burner for now. But those are the people, I guess, that I would like to collaborate with. All right, so Francis Camiso asks, what were some of the keys and tricks you figured out to take you beyond a pentatonic soloist? I mean, obviously learning scales, but my question is more based on the application of knowledge than the knowledge itself. That's a really cool question. The way that I branched off from playing pentatonic scales in my solos is that when I joined my band when I joined my school band in grade 7 and 8 and 9 and all through high school, and then I went to jazz school. I took jazz in university, but when you're playing that kind of music, you can't exactly get away with playing a pentatonic scale. You can't play E minor pentatonic and then just expect everything to be magic. I did play B flat minor pentatonic for a very long time. But basically, I guess the way that I was able to apply my knowledge was through playing jazz in front of a lot of people, and playing with other people, because not so much when I was in school bands, but when I was actually taking jazz in university, if you played pentatonic scales, people would make fun of you, man. You literally got made fun of. They would call you a blues guitarist or a rock guitarist, and when you're playing jazz, you do not, that's an insult, because rock and blues are just easier genres of music than jazz. So if you have a jazz musician calling you a rock guitarist, well, I mean, it's kind of degrading, and people would do that at my university. Nothing against blues or rock guitarists, because I obviously really enjoy both of those styles, but that's just how it was in jazz school. The next question we have comes from the Last Guatemalan, and he says, could you tell me a little bit more about what a tritone is as it relates to music theory? What interval is it exactly? Alright, so the tritone is the split octave. If you have a note, you go 3 whole tones up, and there's your tritone. So if I have an open E, and I want to play a tritone, that note is going to be B flat. And if I play them both together, this is what it would sound like. It's a very gross sound. But if you have your E and count 3 whole tones, so 1, 2, 3, there's B flat, there's your tritone. Oh, it's such a harsh, nasty sound. Mainly the tritone is used in passing chords, like diminished chords. That sound has a lot of tension, so when you hear that tension, you want it to release to something nice, you want it to resolve. So tritones really act as passing chords to get you to where you want to go. Alright, so Alec Gonzalo asks, what are ways that a musician can make a living through music? Well, it's not as easy to do it if you're performing live like it was in the 80s. Welcome to 2018! Basically, Alec, I'm going to tell you my approach to making a living as a musician in 2018. I'm growing an Instagram following and just growing my presence online. When I have an online following, then I can actually start to sell things to them. I can sell guitar courses, I can sell one-on-one lessons, I can teach people how to grow on Instagram themselves and charge for that. I can make money through affiliate marketing. If my YouTube was popular enough, I could actually get money from ad revenue, but I'm not quite there yet. So make sure you subscribe and help me get there. Obviously you can do other things, but those are the ways that I like the best and that I'm going to attempt to make a living through music. I have a job myself right now. I don't fully make a living through what I'm doing. If you're not into online stuff, there are other ways. Obviously teaching would be the main one. You could just teach, have a school. Like once you get enough students, you could, you know, have your own school, open up a music school. I mean, that's really long term, but that's something you could do. Another thing that you could do is perform. And if you wanted to perform live for people, I would go to every place that you think people would want to hear music, like restaurants and bars and wherever. It doesn't have to be that. It could be like weddings. You could find a wedding planner and offer your services. Say you're a musician and you want to play at weddings. You know, create ads, create Facebook ads, and say what you are, tell people what you are and what you'll do. Go to all those restaurants and bars and like say that you want to play. They might not let you play, but maybe say, okay, I'll play for free and we'll see how many people show up and we'll see if people like it. You do that to every restaurant and bar that is in your city, and then eventually, you know, you might get a couple yeses and you just kind of build yourself up from there, man. I hope that helped. All right, my next question comes from Ileda_.x. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. Did you start off playing acoustic or electric? I started out playing electric guitar. I got my first guitar when I was 10 years old, and I'm 23 now. It was a Fender Squier Mini. Like, it was a mini guitar because I was a lot smaller back then, and I couldn't really reach a full-length guitar neck, so I needed a smaller one. And this person also asked if it makes a difference if you learn electric first or acoustic first, because acoustic is a little bit harder to play. So will playing electric first kind of affect you playing acoustic? Will it make you bad at playing acoustic guitar? And the answer is, I really don't think that it makes that much of a difference. If you want to start on electric, if you want to start on acoustic, whichever you like better, just start on that one. Don't let anybody say that you're gonna be a shitty guitarist because you start on electric when acoustic is harder. Yes, acoustic is harder. The strings are like harder to actually press down and create sound with. But if you really want to learn acoustic and you play electric right now, like, you'll be able to. Like, it's not really that much of a noticeable difference. I mean, it's been a long time since I was at that point, but that's my advice. All right, so AbbyMac43 asks, how old was I when I started playing guitar? I was 10. I guess I just answered that. Yeah, I was 10 and I'm 23 now. And she also asked what my favorite song to play on guitar is. That's a hard question. To be honest, I don't really have a favorite because whenever I pick up my guitar, I usually just improvise. I play something on the spot, try to create something cool. I don't play a song. You know what I mean? Like I don't play any one particular song. So to answer your question, I look at it from this perspective. If there was one song that I could never play again, which would I not want that one to be? And probably Nothing Else Matters by Metallica. I just created an Instagram post with that. It's probably like one of my favorite tunes for sure. I love playing the intro because it's not super advanced, but like it's still up there in difficulty, and it just sounds beautiful, and I guess that's my answer. All right, so Avery Saladino, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. How did I get into guitar and what is my motivation? I got into guitar basically through my dad. He used to play, and he still does play. But he would always try to teach me something like when I was 5 years old, and I just wasn't interested. But eventually, when I was 10 years old, I was interested. So he actually taught me Smoke on the Water, go figure, like the same song everybody learns, the very first song everybody learns. And I could play that within like an hour or 2 hours, I can't remember. And it was really fun, and I wanted to keep going. What is my motivation right now? My motivation right now is to honestly, it's to quit my day job. I work for Coca-Cola right now, and I do not want to be doing that. Like, it's not the worst job I've ever had, but I would much rather play guitar and create an online income by doing so than work for Coca-Cola, because the hell with that. So I just think of becoming an entrepreneur and creating revenue that way, and that's what really motivates me. Because every time I have a bad day at work, that motivates me even more. So this question comes from Raja_. What kind of music do I play on guitar? Well, if you scroll through my Instagram page, you can basically see everything I play, because I play a little bit of everything, really. When I first started out, I used to play a lot of rock and that kind of stuff, and then I got into metal. Eventually I played guitar in my school band, so I would learn jazz and like Latin kind of stuff, and then once I went to jazz school, I really learned a lot more about jazz, because I mean, it's jazz school. So while I was in jazz school though, I learned, I taught myself how to play fingerstyle guitar. So to answer your question, I play a lot. My next question comes from Mohammed Sahal, and he asks, as a musician myself, I could find it easy in adding chords while I'm writing music or programming, but I find it difficult to play chords along with a singer instantaneously with my piano. Please help. So Muhammad and I had a short conversation, and I kind of wanted to go further. Like, I wanted to find out in detail what he was struggling with. And he said that he could easily tackle the scale or key of the song, but there's always confusion, because there's so many different notes that he could play. There's so many possibilities to build his chords. And he doesn't want to put any wrong notes in a chord while playing live. Understandable, of course. And he says trial and error isn't really the best strategy to kind of find out what works and what doesn't. So to answer your question, you have to know the melody really well, my man. I've been in situations where I was playing with a singer, and you also have to know their range, because I'm telling you, it's gonna depend on the singer, because every singer is different. They have a different range, and the way they phrase things can be totally different from one or the other. So you really have to know the melody of a song, and you kind of have to know where he or she is going to take it. Obviously, I'm assuming that you practice with them, and actually that would be the best time to really do the trial and error thing, because it doesn't matter, there's no one there. You have to know the melody, because you don't want to play any notes that are going to interfere with the melody. For example, if you're playing a chord and they sing a note, whatever note they're singing, don't put that note on the top of your chord, you know what I mean? Like the highest note, because chances are they're not going to sing it 100% in tune with your piano. It might be off by just a few cents. And if you're both playing that same note, but it's off a little bit, then you're gonna make the singer sound bad, because obviously your piano is perfectly in tune, but the singer may not be. It might not be super noticeable to the ear right away, but I mean, just stay out of the singer's way. You can put different extensions on your chords, and as long as they harmonically make sense, you need to voice. You can't voice your chords so that one chord is in the low register, and then the next chord is in the super high register, and then you have a mid register. You want to kind of be in the same register, and make sure that register isn't the same register that the singer is singing in. If they have a range that is like high, then you play lower. If they have a lower range, then you maybe play something higher, you know what I mean? I feel like I'm kind of ranting with this question, but yeah, main thing is just know the melody and try to play around the singer. Like, you can respond to them. Like, if they're playing something, like, it's okay to leave space, you know what I mean? Like, play a chord, leave some space. If the singer is singing the major third of the chord, then you are, obviously you don't play a sus chord underneath that. Like, you leave the 11th out, because the 11th and the 3rd are gonna, like, does that make sense? Does that help? I hope that helps. All right, guys, that's it. That's all the questions. Thank you so much if you submitted a question to this podcast. The very first episode of #AskBrandon is done. Stay tuned for more podcasts. I'm gonna keep you guys updated on my Instagram story, and I'll be asking questions again, and hopefully I will get a new round of people next week. And I wanna do it every week. That's the goal, so ask away. If you stuck around to the end of the podcast, thank you so much for watching to the end. As a small YouTuber, guys, you know I appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe to me here on YouTube and follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you guys in the next video.